Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Sports. I am Ralph Labella.
I'm Lou Spagnola.
And I'm Ron Sen. And welcome to the Super Bowl extravaganza. First, I want to talk about responsible use of social media. You have plenty of opportunities to insult your teammates, your coaches, your opponents. Do you have to do it publicly? Do you have to embarrass yourself? Do you have to put crude, vulgar t-shirt language out there to only give people reasons to hate you more? Or do you have to wake up in bed seeing your pictures splashed across the internet doing things that you probably wish you didn't do, Julian Edelman?
Well, he gave a new meaning to the truth gets halfway around the world before you get a chance to put your pants on, or a lie. I mean, he didn't even get out of bed, and all of a sudden he was all over the world. And wasn't a good one either.
So it's really important to recognize that what you say and the traces you leave with electronic footprints on the internet stay there. They stay on Facebook, they stay on Instagram, they stay on Tumblr, they stay on other sites, and you don't want them there. So if you decide to make some knucklehead decision, for once, try to keep it to yourself.
Yeah, but I mean, it wasn't his fault, number one. And when you really look at it, the guy's been banging heads for 18 weeks, at least. You know, I mean, you see the type of player he is. They just won the Super Bowl. He's young. That's all I'm going to say, but it definitely wasn't his fault.
No, I'm not blaming him, but there's plenty of opportunities that we've seen in the past, locally and elsewhere, where people who've made bad decisions compound the bad decision by making it a public exposition.
Well, if he wanted to be, you know, what Brad Marchand did a couple of years ago, sorry, Marchand, you know, go out and, you know, just carouse for the next few weeks, well, he started early.
But do we really know that was a bad decision? How old is he? He's in his early 20s.
Ah, he's
not married.
Solely oats, you know, he went out.
You know, he met a girl,
yeah,
and he ended up being with the girl. I mean,
just was the wrong girl.
You know.
Just for a momentary digression, I think we have to talk about the strange case of Tiger Woods, who last week missed the cut with an 82. He made some chip shots that are inexplicable. You have to think that he'd need to be drug tested after some of these chip shots. There was one that went 3 feet, didn't even make the green. Another one soared across the green. And a lot of golf instructors say Tiger's got the yips now.
Well, he's had a lot of time off, to be fair. I cannot stand Tiger Woods. I'm not a fan, no fan. I got to give him credit. That is the first thing that, you know, it's going to go. If you don't play for a while, you know, a guy like him, he's still going to get up and whack the driver 300 yards. But the touch, the feel, I wouldn't be surprised if it takes him half a season to get that back. And even then, he hasn't been playing well. He hasn't putted well for how many years? I mean, I think everybody wants to, you know, you got to glad handle his ego. Oh, you know, Tiger could be back. I think he's had a fork in his back for years now.
Well, look what happened to Duval. Look what happened to him. He started lifting weights. Look at Tiger compared to when he was younger.
Yeah,
you start lifting weights, your muscle changes, your feel of the club changes. That's why a lot of basketball players, the good shooters, they don't build up. They don't build up because that's what they're worried about.
What works?
There was 1 year that Tiger Woods finished every practice round with 100 consecutive 8-foot putts. If he made 92 and he missed, he started back over at 1. That season, he didn't miss anything inside of 4 feet because a 4-footer probably looked like a tap into him. My guess is he's not practicing that way now.
Who really cares now about Tiger Woods anyway?
Well, you know.
You care about him?
I don't care. You know, I tell you.
He's with Lindsay now. He's happy. So
I'm sure he better be. You know,
he's spending a lot of time with with her and supporting her. So.
It's like everything else, though. Every sport needs something, you know. If they don't have a face for the sport, they need controversy. And let's face it, Tiger did that. He did both for the sport. He gave them a face for years. Greatest player. They wanted him to be the greatest player of all time, was definitely going to beat Mickelson's record. Then he gave him controversy. Did his wife hit him with a 5-iron or a putter?
Well, on to the Patriots. It's hard to even know where to begin when you're talking about a monumental effort like the 4th championship for one of your professional teams. I'm not a person who says, we won. I didn't win anything. I didn't coach. I didn't play. I didn't sell popcorn.
Well, we're fans. We're fans. I mean, I know my son-in-law, I mean, I was there. I was with him. I mean, they had a party over his house, and I mean, everybody there went crazy when Butler intercepted the ball. During the game, it was a great game, and you look at it, and it reminded me when I was a kid. I mean, I'm still a big sports fan. I still get excited, and I wanted them to win badly. But when I was younger, that's what reminded me of, 20, 30 years ago when I used to turn the TV off. I was so nervous.
Well, to me, the seminal moment of childhood sports watching was Petrocelli's back. He's got it. When the Red Sox won their first AL pennant in 1967. That was before they'd ever won any postseason.
But that was a great Super Bowl. I'm so happy for all the Patriots, especially Brady. I'm really happy for him. And everybody looks at me like, I'm really happy for him and Giselle and his kids.
Well, there aren't many.
Because he's never won one with Giselle and his kids.
There aren't many games that outperform the hype. When there was plenty of hype, forget about Deflategate, we won't go there. There's enough to talk about the game itself. Where do you even begin as far as the game?
Well, the key play of the game, besides Butler's interception, was Brady's first interception. Because what happened there is that, the cornerback broke his hand. He was out. They had to bring in, is it Simon?
Well, they brought in Simon after Lane broke his arm.
Yeah, I mean, that was the biggest play of the game.
And Edelman took him out with a
And they took advantage of him the whole game.
Yeah, he was a target for the rest of the game.
Well, just like Ryan was for us when Arrington was getting burned.
Well, they had Chris Matthews, who, other than Chris Matthews on MSNBC, whoever heard of Chris Matthews? He hadn't done anything all season long. And
Was he 6'4"?
He's 6'5" and had over 100 yards receiving. It was outstanding.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that got the Patriots for the last, I don't know how many years, was that they had these cornerbacks that were 5'9", trying to cover guys, and not only were they too short to cover them, but they couldn't stay with them. So, and it's just we haven't had much of a pass rush. So you bring in a guy like Revis, finally we got a shutdown corner. Browner has played better when they're not calling penalties. And this was an extreme, I don't know if you guys noticed, extreme lax calls on penalties this game.
Gronkowski was getting tackled every time he was going out, but they let him play,
this was one of the least penalizing.
How about the penalty on Allen when he was punting his first punt?
That should have been 15 yards. Should have been 15.
Well,
there were
and
a couple
Butler got away with it when he tripped the guy going across, breaking open, and that was kind of a makeup. It wasn't intentionally a makeup for the.
But they outplayed Seattle. I mean, they outplayed them. They deserved to win. That's what I'm happy about. I know, I think in the 8th or 9th week of the season, when the Patriots beat Detroit, we talked about it, and we both picked the Patriots. Originally, it was going to be, we said Patriots against Green Bay, and then Seattle.
Homers notwithstanding, we all picked the Patriots to beat Seattle.
And it was just unbelievable. And I'm really happy now. Brady should go down as the greatest quarterback ever. I mean, I think next year they're going to be the favorites. They have Seattle as the favorites, the Patriots number 2. But the Patriots are the youngest team to ever win a Super Bowl. They're going to be real young next year. They're only going to lose a couple of players. I think Revis is the key player. Conley may end up going, but I don't think he will. I don't think Conley will leave.
We'll talk about that, but it becomes a question of if you have a chance to get paid and you're maybe on your last paycheck or close to it, or maybe you've never had a big payday like Vereen, do you just say, I have to get paid right now? And I don't blame guys who do that. I mean, especially when you look at that sport.
Yeah, but Revis played in Tampa Bay. It's like, I mean, realistically, it's like sending a lifelong resident of San Diego to live in Boston for right now. It's like you're going to Siberia.
He loves being here, though.
Well, I think he'll probably get something like 4 for 60, the $20 million signing bonus, so it'll be $5 million a year, and then the cap will be spread out.
It's going to be cap friendly.
That's what I was surprised at, because the top cornerbacks are averaging $14 million a year. So I was surprised at that. I figure if they give him 16, like you said, 15, 16 in that area and guarantee him 30, I think he'll sign with them. And to win 2 Super Bowls in a row, and they're going to be the favorites if he comes back.
I mean, you see him crying after the game. I mean, something, Belichick's defense, the way it works, it's been said a million times, and I'll say it the million and first. He's going to take away one thing from the other team that they want to do. So in order to do that, you also have to have some pretty good players, I mean, they didn't have the greatest pass rush, but they could get there. They could at least get the quarterback uncomfortable. And as they, sacked Wilson a few times. To have a shutdown corner, I mean, whoever Revis was covering, other than the time that the referee picked him, all right, he shut down the side of the field that, the Patriots have not done that. Talib was okay last year, but to have a guy like that, he was basically tattooed to their best receiver.
But in the game like that against Seattle, you really don't need it. He's not as valuable against Seattle, where Seattle doesn't have good receivers. So, I mean, it's not like he's shutting down.
Their best receiver was invisible.
It'll be interesting to see how Seattle does going forward, because it's the blueprint thing. People now say, okay, we can attack Seattle with this type of offense because they're big and a little slower. And they've been getting away with paying Lynch below market value and Wilson nothing. So they've got a lot of money that's going on to their defense. Their defense, I think, was at $57 million or more. And the money's going to have to go to somewhere to pay Russell Wilson. And Wilson's going to get the dough, and Lynch is going to get the dough. So you just can't have all-stars at every position.
No, and you got to pay your linemen and all that. So that's
that's the thing. You know what? And tying this up, I guess, and to think about the youngest team. I said we because Patriots fan, but to think that they got the youngest team, and this being the salary cap era. The one thing that they've really done well is manage the cap. They made some bust picks and, obviously some free agent forays that didn't go so well. But I think right now you pay Revis. I'm not saying pay him anything he wants, but he's on the books for $20 million next year. That's not going to happen. So, okay, you say he's going to opt out of that, tear it up, give him something new. You get this young team. You got guys like Mayo are coming back next year. You're almost going to say, well, we're adding Gerard Mayo for free next year to a Super Bowl roster. We already have him.
Well, he's probably going to have to renegotiate,
yeah,
too.
But, and he probably, he's depending how he comes back. But the thing I liked that I really was thinking about that I took away from this game is Belichick and Brady being together. Everybody wants to make the comparisons. There was Bradshaw and Noel. And then Montana, obviously, he won it with two coaches. But nobody ever remembers George Seifert because obviously Bill Walsh. But to think that we're coming back now to do it again, I mean, the Steelers in 1980 were old, and they showed it. They got old fast. The 49ers, they loaded up, and then the salary cap killed them for the next decade. But to think that Brady and Belichick have done this 4 times in the salary cap era, I mean, it's incomprehensible. Think how many times some of these other teams have rebuilt themselves.
And there's been a lot of discussion about, is it better to be 4-0 or 4-2 because you went to the Super Bowl 6 times?
Or 4-2, of course.
Montana went at one and done 4 times. Brady's been one and done twice. Peyton Manning's been one and done 9 times.
And
I mean, definitely want to go 4-2. You go to as many Super Bowls as you can. But you look at the Patriots. My thinking is Belichick's going to look at this and say, okay, Brady's got, I would say, 3 years, 2 more good years, hopefully 3 real good years. And he's going to say, well, in those 3 years, if we have Revis on defense, those 3 years, we're going to be the favorites with everybody else that we have. So I think that's going to be Belichick's thinking, hey, we got 3, and Kraft too, we got 3 more years here with Brady playing top-notch football. And then Revis on defense.
Well, who do you design your team to compete against to beat right now?
No one now. You got a team.
No, to me it's Buffalo and the Jets, which are going to have these massive defensive lines, and of course the Ravens. So all those teams are really strong up front. So the Patriots really need to focus on building their lines up.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they were talking about us in the second round this year getting an offensive lineman. But don't forget, they have Fleming, who's young too.
Right.
And they got Storks as a center.
And Easley is another red shirt.
Defense.
Right,
but I'm talking about the offensive line. They have 2 other guys that they drafted on the offensive line last year fairly early. So see what happens there. They may pick up a free agent offensive lineman. But they did a great job, that offensive line, after the beginning of the season. I know that Wendell and Conley are getting older, but they both play terrific. So, I mean, and who knows about Klein and who knows about the other guy? Cannon, what did they give him? $15 million?
Yeah.
But guaranteed too.
Well, yeah, I think that's going to be a source of, maybe get one person if they come up with another lineman.
But
Solder, who knows, Nate Solder, who knows how, are we going to get back the one that played great the last couple of years before? Are we going to get back the one that was like a turnstile earlier in the year? He played better, you know, and I think
And Ballmer.
they all came up.
They're all set at tackle. They're all set at center.
Well,
So-
the one thing we never know is what background noise in their players' lives. Are their girlfriend sick, or is their parent
Sure,
an issue?
yeah,
There's all these back things that can
they're
affect
human
people's
beings.
play.
But you know what no one's talking about? They were talking about all these free agents. No one's talking about Gostkowski. God, he's so important to that team. I don't know why they're not talking. He's a free agent. I mean, look, 5 times he kicked it and they didn't return the kicks.
I know,
All
he's got
5
the
times.
strongest leg in the league.
I mean, that's huge, and he had a great year kicking field goals.
Well, obviously, we all agree that Revis is their first priority. Everyone has pretty much said that McCourty's going to be franchised, and then
I think
then you
the next
figure
guy
out-
is Gostkowski. People don't realize how important that is.
No, I agree. And then
And Vereen.
the question is whose money. You know, Mayo may have to give up something. Amendola is at $4 million. I don't know that that's.
They think he's going to have to renegotiate.
Amendola's never been worth,
He's at 6. isn't he?
never ever
Yeah, but
been
he's-
worth the
he-
contract.
I think his
Oh, this year he was.
salary's at 4.
But you know what? You got to think of it like this.
the end of this year he was.
finally came on and he finally gave
He's
them.
tough as nails.
I
though.
like him. Don't get me wrong. I like him. The big knock on him is we couldn't stay healthy.
Who are the 2
You know?
toughest guys on the team? Like Gronk, put Gronk aside and the linemen.
No,
Who
we
else?
got two
top?
wide receivers that are tougher than
Edelman
$2
and
steaks.
Amendola.
Absolutely. But the funny thing is, let's not forget. I guess a nod to the past. Wes Welker. It turned out. I guess we didn't need you after all, Wes. I never thought we needed him to begin with. I still haven't forgiven him for the Super Bowl 3 years ago. We were supposed to be replacing him with Amendola. And ultimately, it turned out his replacement was already on the roster. Last year Amendola was hurt. Come back, he's hurt. Edelman, I think, is the real deal. At least Amendola finally came out.
For younger people who are watching, probably both of you, Edelman's a great example of do more, become more. He goes to the stadium. He's the first one there at 5:30 in the morning, watching film, lifting weights, catching balls off the jugs machine. Guy made himself into a great player, and he got paid. He's getting his $3 million a year, which he's earned, and he seems like a heck of a guy too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's hard-nosed. I mean, I have a lot of respect for him and Edelman are unbelievable. The hits they take, I mean, they're getting their money's worth. He's going to have a real good year next year if he stays healthy.
And the other guy that, at the
LaFell had a
beginning
great
of, right,
year.
at the beginning of the year, they have no receivers. Well, LaFell was excellent.
Yards after
especially-
reception,
Yeah,
unbelievable.
especially after in the postseason, and he's a willing blocker.
And he's tall, too.
He
so
was what
great.
they needed. I mean, looking back in the last few years, it's kind of funny that they went to the Super Bowl and won, because the 2 things that they needed more than anything, a tall receiver that could get open outside the hash marks and a cornerback that could shut down. And they get those 2, and
If you want to feel sorry for someone, you can feel sorry for Logan Mankins, because he's on the outside looking in.
He's always been about money, although he played with that knee. But his biggest thing is he didn't want to give any money back. That's why they traded him. He
Well,
didn't want to give money back. And
I don't think we have to rehash the play calling decision, because we can go over statistics. I think statistics are interesting. 108 passes from the 1-yard line this season, 61% touchdowns, no interceptions up until that last play. 220-something runs, 57% touchdowns, 2 fumbles. So statistically, it was.
talking again about everybody saying that Carroll was crazy doing it, I thought he was right on. I thought things were working out perfect for Seattle, and you have the greatest play ever made in all sports in Butler's interception. All the years I've watched sports, that was the greatest play in that type of situation. And everybody's knocking Carroll, and Belichick was the one who was screwing up the time, not Carroll. It just so happened that Butler made the big play to bail him out.
Well, YouTube has a section called Sports Science, and they review in slow motion what happened, and also the recognition of Butler within a 1/10 of a second. As soon as he saw Lockett plant his right foot, he started to break to the inside, and then he was going at 13 miles an hour. He had enough of an angle so he was able to knock him off the ball.
Well, that's where you have to give Belichick credit, because they were prepared for that. And
Preparation,
that's Belichick being prepared better than most coaches. But what I'm talking about is that whole thing when they're knocking Carroll. I mean, I think when they said he shouldn't have used the second timeout, he's in a perfect situation there on the 1-yard line. He's got 26 seconds to go, I believe, down when they started running that play. His thinking is, as a coach, we throw an incompleted pass.
Right.
Now we're 3rd down.
with the timeout, right.
Then we run the play. If we had stopped on third down, we called it our last time out for fourth down.
Right.
So everything was working perfect for Seattle, and Butler made the greatest play I've ever seen. So anybody who's knocking Carroll really doesn't understand the game.
Well, that's what,
I mean, you could knock him because everybody, if I was coach, I would have probably did the same thing as maybe run Lynch then and then passed if I get stopped.
Look at every single coach practically would pile on Belichick, say he's a cheater, the Carolina general manager, everybody. Who was out defending Pete Carroll is Belichick. Today, most of these people, his critics know nothing about football.
They don't. I mean, you look at the journalists and, all they want are the numbers. They constantly harp on it. And there's people come out and say it's the worst call I've ever seen.
To
in
me,
football.
if you want to be
Look
critical,
at the situation.
say they could have run a fade to Matthews or something like that and seen if there was maybe a little bit less likelihood of an interception on that kind of play.
But one other thing, too, is 2 times on third down, Seattle had the ball in the game, third and short, and the Pats stuffed Lynch twice. When they had to kick that field goal in the third period, in a key situation, who they give the ball to? Lynch to get thrown for half-yard loss.
And they said there were 5 occasions that Lynch had a chance to score from the one this year, and he only scored once.
Scored once. So anybody who, I mean, it's ridiculous because people that want to open their mouths and knock people, saying it should have been Lynch, it should have been Lynch, it should have been Lynch. That was a perfect situation for Seattle. All year long, not one interception thrown. It's just that Belichick, the coach that he is, they were prepared for it. They worked on it all week on that one play. And that's where you kind of like burn, like you said, maybe they should have run a different pass play.
Well,
but other than that, I mean, people are ridiculous constantly knocking
They didn't know the Patriots wanted to be on to it.
The other thing is you saw reaction to the win. Now, obviously, the defensive players, it was a fraction of a second where they started to celebrate, except Hightower jumped on Butler to make sure he didn't try to get up because he'd already seen the interception. But Brady's reaction to winning was classic. He continues to be classy with the decision to give the truck to Butler.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's going to cost him $22,000, but when you're a billionaire, $22,000.
Why can't he just sell it to him for $1? I don't understand.
Well, you don't. I mean, Brady.
Capital gains or something too. They call it.
Oh, there's a special. There's a tax. There's there's a gift tax apparently in addition to the tax that he gets for the value of the truck.
Must be a Massachusetts.
You know that
No,
they should just give him
figure.
the Butler a second truck. Tell Brady to keep it. We'll give Butler a second truck.
Well, I'll tell you though. The one thing, speaking of Belichick now. Here's a guy now, okay, he's won 4 Super Bowls. He's been to 6, like you said. But the one thing about it that I can say, has he ever, and people will say outcoached, oh, he was outcoached, or so-and-so outcoached him. Has he ever gone into a big game unprepared? Like, have you ever seen him not, like, I honestly think with 2 weeks to prepare for anybody, there's not a better coach in any sport on any planet of anything. I think if you gave him 2 weeks to figure out which of 2 birds on a telephone wire, which one is going to fly off first, he would put in the preparation and come up with the right one 98% of the time.
I'd love to know how much he's involved with the offense.
Well, you know something?
He sits down with Brady every week.
I think he is involved. You know what? He gets coaches. He lets them coach. That's why you see Matt Patricia calling defensive plays. You see the guys doing what they do. But what I notice, you'll see him walk over to every meeting at different times, and he knows when to give his 2 cents. I don't think he's this total control kind of guy that this is my team and I run it. I think he lets his coaches coach, but I think he puts his influence into every pot because I think he's just unbelievable at that. I can't even say enough good things about him.
Well,
bad interview and all that, but
the first reinforcement of what do you learn from watching the Super Bowl like this is the infinitesimal margin between victory and defeat. I mean, you can't even say how fine it is. Second of all, and I'm glad for this puts to rest the Manning versus Brady debate. Manning doesn't even pretty much belong in the same sentence with Brady at this point.
Well, I listened to a quarterback talk about that. They asked him, and he still said that Manning was the greatest he's seen. But you look at the playoffs, it's different. I like when they were interviewing him, he said you take every season and you look at both of them and you got to put Manning here. And then the person that was interviewing him says, well, what about the ends he's had compared to what Brady's had?
Right.
There have been seasons where Brady's had, he hasn't had an end in one of the top 40 ends in the league. Not one of them.
Riche Caldwell.
So you look at that, but Manning's had some great. I don't like that comparison because Manning's just been tremendous. I mean, it hasn't worked out for him in the playoffs. Brady's been successful in the playoffs.
But you know something,
They're the two the greatest I've ever seen.
But I'll tell you what, though, and this is the difference, I think, anyway. You can win from a week-to-week standpoint if you study, and Manning is brilliant. He's smart. You know, he never had a strong arm, but he's an extremely quick thinker on the field. And I think throughout the course of a year to year and to year and to year, you're going to get, a lot of scoring opportunities based on the fact that safeties can't hit. We could go through the whole thing. He's smart. Regular season, you're not going to always face playoff teams that have, years and 2 years and 3 years worth of books on you. And when Manning goes into the playoffs, like Brady and like Terry Bradshaw, who everybody thought was dumb, which he wasn't, and Joe Montana and other quarterbacks, Russell Wilson. Yeah. Now here's Wilson. He's had 2 playoffs. He's young. He's proven to be, if nothing else, up to the task. He doesn't get rattled. And I'll tell you, no matter how great Manning is, no matter how many 50-touchdown seasons he's had or whatever, when it comes time for the big game,
Brady's clutch.
Well, there's some other wonderful points that come out of the Super Bowl. When they asked Russell Wilson about the game, he said, "This isn't going to define my career." I really love that. He'll be back. And
he had a good game.
He's a terrific athlete. Nobody can touch the guy running. He's so quick.
He had a very good game. He threw some good passes.
And the second thing is the ghost of the Rose Bowl in 2006. Now, Pete Carroll was the coach at USC. They were undefeated, playing Texas. 41, Texas, USC 38. It was 4th and 2. They had terrific running back, Lendale White. They handed the ball to White. He got stuffed, and they lost. And you wonder, just somewhere in the back of Pete Carroll's 2 college championships, he says, that's not going to happen to me again. Yeah. So we all take away a lesson from every life experience. And maybe he made a good decision. He just wasn't executing well enough.
I do not knock Carroll for that call.
I don't either.
Too many people that love to hammer people. They love to get on you when you're down. I mean, they're hammering him. But it was working out perfect for Seattle. And it's just that the greatest play in all the sports was made in that play.
Well, it'll be interesting to see, obviously how many players are going to have surgery. Earl Thomas is having surgery. Hightower's having surgery. We know Lane is going to have surgery on his arm. He's probably already had
brutal game.
Yeah, but another thing I want to say, a lot of people are knocking Collins because he got beat by Lynch on that pass on the last set of downs, that long pass. And they say Collins didn't play that good. We expect him to. He played unbelievable. He was the guy that was coming in and banging Lynch. I mean, Lynch was taking some hits early in the game. And a lot of those hits were by Collins coming up and drilling them.
Yeah.
So he wasn't that successful, Lynch, during the game.
The other point that I wanted to make was on the Curse catch. A good point that someone made was that back in the day, he never catches the ball because the safety comes across, and once the ball's up, he kills him. But now, with concern about defenseless receiver, that doesn't happen. So the ability to even make that catch occurs because of rule changes.
Well, you're going to see in the future, you're going to see Patriot players in the future, next year, may see it in the game, where they intercept that, because they're all going to be aware of that now. When stuff like that happens, you're aware. Like we talked about during the game, I'm watching the game. I said, like my son-in-law was really down when Brady missed Edelman, before he hit Amendola, when he threw that bullet pass, I says, Jim, they just scored. I said, next time Edelman, they run that play, the pass is going to be there. So next time they're in the play, he just makes sure he made it there.
Do you think Edelman pushed off?
Well, no, because
his arm was stretched and the defensive back.
But Simon hit him first, was grabbing it first, and he pushed his arm off of him. So when you look at it, the Patriot back got pushed. Arrington got pushed on one of those pass plays, but it was a little nudge, enough to knock him off balance.
It's like line play, that's holding on every play. And when it comes to that, every wide receiver pushes off. It's just a matter of,
But the good thing is it was a great game, the greatest Super Bowl, watched by more fans than any TV program.
Yeah.
It was 120
even
million.
But it was great.
It's just great. It was just great to see. And I'm really happy, and people look at me, I'm really happy for Brady and Giselle and the kids, because he wanted it so bad, you know, to be able to celebrate it with his family.
But
And you like things like that.
I just got this, though. Did either of you ever think, let's go back a few years, that we would see 11 championships, a total of 11 from 4 sports?
Yeah.
When the Patriots were lining up to kick that field goal against the Rams in January of 2002, or February, did anybody think that that would be one of 11? I mean, come on.
I just want to say one last thing. I really dislike the concept of parades, but I love the fact that they won to be able to allow people to have a parade.
Yes.
But you know, one other thing too is I remember back when Eddie Andelman had his show about 14 years ago, and he goes, what team is the next team to win a championship? That's when all 4 teams were down. All 4 teams were down then, and I remember that show he had, you know, who do you think's the team? The Red Sox, this or that, and I'll look at it since then.
Well, and if you said, what's the difference, is they have the best management. So having them...
And fans. Great fans in Boston.
Right. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Athletic Evolution for an inside look at our football combine training. My name is Larry Thomas. I'm a strength and conditioning coach here at AE. Behind you, you can see a group of guys getting to work right now. We have 10 athletes this year working with us, all in preparation for their individual pro days at their schools, where the scouts will come and take a look at them and put them through a number of drills to kind of test their athleticism and their ability and how they stack up against you know, other guys at their level, getting ready for, you know, the next step, which would be, you know, the NFL. We have a group of 10 guys, all ranging from schools from Boston College to UMass. We have a couple of local guys in Bentley University and Assumption College. So it runs the full spectrum, different positions. We have a couple offensive linemen, some D-line, wide receiver, defensive back. You know, so we're putting these guys through individual drills that are going to help them prepare skill-wise as well as athletically overall to test for their drills on the combine day. Thanks for stopping in for our football combine training here at Athletic Evolution. Again, my name is Larry Thomas. If you guys need any more details or information on what we're doing here with these guys and how to prepare yourself, feel free to contact us with all of our information provided to you. Thank you.
Welcome back. I wanted to talk a little bit about bias first. Most of us don't really care how the brain works, but we have 2 systems. First is, you might call it a heuristic back-of-the-envelope type system. If you're standing behind home plate at Fenway, behind the screen, somebody hits a foul tip and it comes back at you, you put your hand up because you have a reflexive system to try to protect you from threats. You also have a reflective system, where you make a longer-term judgment weighing the pros and cons. Now, when the ball's coming back at your face, you don't reflect on what to do. You just put your hands up, even though in the back of your mind, you know you have a screen up. Now, what kind of biases can affect our judgments as far as how we view things? And there are some major ones that probably are worth talking about. First might be something called attribution bias. That is, when something happens, good or bad, we won the game. Why did we win the game? We won the game because we were so skillful, or the coaching was so good, or we had luck. But seldom do we say we won because the officials gave us the game, or the other team played poorly. We're more apt to give ourselves credit than someone else blame. Another is confirmation bias. Confirmation bias says that we read things that reinforce what we believe. Now, I like to read in many instances, the opposing team's newspapers after the game and see what they say, because I know what the Boston sports writers are going to say. You know, if you read after the Boston team loses, Shaughnessy hammers everybody, and you know, everyone from the fans to the water boy. Another is framing. So you say, frame is exactly what happens with the Seattle game, is that everyone says, oh, there was no decision here. It was hand the ball to Marshawn Lynch. That was the only decision. You got the best running back in the National Football League. Well, it's not always so clear. During the Vietnam War, Henry Kissinger went to Nixon and said, here are your choices: withdraw, nuclear war, keep doing the same thing. So Nixon said, we're doing the same thing, because he didn't want to be seen as weak by withdrawing or excessive by nuclear war. So I'm not defending Nixon, I'm just saying those were the only options he was given. And another one is recency bias. As of Sunday night, Pete Carroll was an idiot. He was able to win the Super Bowl last year, he was able to get his team to the Super Bowl this year, and he won 2 national championships at Southern Cal. I don't really think Pete's an idiot. I think he had some bad luck, but I don't think he's a bad coach. Maybe his players aren't as disciplined as the Patriots. Maybe that caught up with him. Maybe it was luck.
Yeah, like Belichick said in regard to that, Ron, is that a lot of people that are knocking him don't know the game. They don't know 1/5 of what he knows. And everybody wants to blame someone when things don't go right. And then in this case here, a lot of Patriot fans are blaming Carroll for a terrible call. But they don't look deep into it. And again, Belichick's right. But as you were talking, you know, I was thinking about, you know, you're playing games, you know, when games I've coached or played in, you kind of look to blame someone, but, you know, my team was playing the other day, and the refs are having a terrible game. But we ended up losing the game, and the refs made a number of bad calls. But that wasn't the reason why we lost. And I was more upset about the way we played than the way the refs. I just threw that aside, and I said, well, if we played better, you know, we would have won the game. It was a close game. We just didn't execute right. So people do look for excuses, right. You know, when you have, and you know me, you know me.
No, absolutely. Nobody's more competitive coaching than Ralph. Ralph really enjoys the game management aspect. I don't really enjoy the game management. I love practice. I love teaching. I love trying to coach kids up to be better players. Games are part of it, but I'm much more suited to be an assistant than a head coach because that's my orientation toward the sport. That doesn't make it good or bad, that's just how it is. So we work well together with him as the head coach and me as the assistant. I just think that's a much more suitable framework for us. Now, when we look at professional basketball in this city, we're really in a period of great opportunity and great uncertainty. Right now, the Celtics don't have a star player. You know, I mean, I don't care which NBA writer you interviewed, they have no star player. Maybe Marcus Smart will be a franchise player someday.
I'm worried, Ron. I'm worried about Marcus Smart. I don't think he's ever going to be a good offensive player. And he's a rookie. I'm hoping. I've seen other rookies the Celtics have had. Lewis wasn't good his first 2 years and got better and better. And I'm hoping Smart gets a shot. Because you got to finish. I don't want to see another Rondo. You know, and I mean, he's a hard-nosed player,
right.
But
what bothers me the most about the Celtics, and if you want to get back to analytics, You win by better net shooting percentage versus the other team. You win by better rebounding, fewer turnovers, but the last and one of the most important is you get to the line because you go to the basket. And the Celtics have a bunch of mid-range jump shooters right now. And they're getting, I mean, teams will shoot 35 free throws and the Celtics are shooting 12, and people say it's the refs. It's not the refs. They don't go to the basket.
No, I mean, they don't have the type of players. But Ron, I'm worried about the Celtics. I think the rebuilding is going to be years. I'm talking about years. I'm talking like 8 to 10 years. I mean, what do you see there that you can build around?
No, you have a lot of.
At least we had Pierce.
You have a lot of complementary players, and you have to hope that somehow you get a superstar. Are you going to get one from free agency?
You're not going to get it.
Hard to expect that.
This is going to be a struggle for years. I'm looking at, number one, Sullinger. You're never going to be a good team with him. He'll have his games where he gets 20 points and 10 rebounds.
Well, and he comes to the shoot-arounds late 2 out of 3 games. That's disrespectful to the coach. I mean, okay, the driving is bad. It snowed a lot. He's from Ohio. He knows bad weather. It's not any better there than it is here.
But they don't have one player in this team right now who's going to lead a team. And there's not one player. Who's a player in this team that's going to lead? Smart just, unless he works on his shot and gets it down, I mean, you're not going to be able to lead the team.
I will give Bradley credit as a closer lately. He is willing to take the shot, and he's a pretty good shooter. I mean, in that 18-footer.
But he's not a leader, Ron.
No.
He's not a leader. He doesn't have the brains to be a leader. That's the problem. Bradley's a better player when he has talented players around him that will take the pressure off him. He's in these carefree games where, they're losing, they're winning. He can take his jump shots. They don't have another player who needs the ball. Well, and some games he hits them, some games he doesn't. But he doesn't make plays to win games.
And you have this, I'll call it popular misconception that it's all about your athleticism. My son, whom I love dearly, said the Celtics of the 60s would be worse than 20 teams in the NBA right now. And I would say put Havlicek and Russell from then on the Celtics now, and they'd be competitive because they know how to play basketball. It's not how high you can jump, it's how well you can play the game.
Havlicek was Havlicek could be an all-star right now.
Absolutely.
The way he played the game, he constantly ran the whole game, didn't have to sit out. His heartbeat was like 40 a minute.
Well, it's like the old story about Stan Musial. Somebody said, if Stan Musial were playing now, he'd only hit 250. And the guy said, yeah, but he's 72.
But the Celtics are in deep trouble. It's going to be years, Ron.
Well, the power is in the West. Now, what happened when Rajon Rondo went to Dallas? Did Dallas become a power?
What did I
tell
you?
They got messed up.
What did I tell you? The fans are going to be saying, this is wrong. This is the guy you've been talking about? This guy's terrible. I mean, we knew it 5 years ago.
Well, you want the ball to keep moving, and when it gets to Rondo, the ball stops. And that's the problem.
I'm watching the Celtics the other day, Ron. What is going on with Stevens? He wants ball movement. I'm watching the game. I shut it off. Young's in the game, so I says, great, I want to watch. I guess he had just hit a three-point shot. I'm watching the game. 4 straight minutes he doesn't touch the ball. This is what they do. They come down the court, they dribble the ball, they put Sullinger in the low post, they got someone else out in the right wing, they got Young over there, what they used to do when Pierce played, and it's one-on-one. They're getting the ball down to Sullinger. He's missing half the shots.
Well,
and I'm saying to myself, who wants to watch basketball like this?
Everybody runs high ball screen. We have 3 players spaced, and you have Sullinger or what's his name? The center. The center. Zeller.
Zeller.
Or Zeller at the high post. You try to run pick and roll, which they're not good at this point. And the other thing they like to run dribble handoffs for Bradley to score. They really don't have a very creative offense, and I'm wondering if the players are basketball IQ challenged as far as knowing how to run the plays.
No, they're just not basketball players, Ron. They're really not. I mean, it's really...
I mean, don't blame Young. Young only played 1 year of college.
I want to see him play all the time, Young. Get him involved in the game. The guy can score.
Well, and if they lose, it's okay because...
He's smooth. He's a smooth player. And then Olenek, when he comes back, play Olenek and play smart.
Well, Young's a bad defensive player right now, and he doesn't put the ball on the floor really well either.
But play all 3 of them all the time.
But I do say that my biggest concern is I don't know what the culture on the team is now. Kevin Eastman, who's the head of basketball operations vice president of basketball operations of the Clippers, says when the Celtics were winning, they had 3 priorities: teamwork, winning, and accountability. And right now, I think the Celtics have no accountability.
They have no direction. Stevens, I don't know about him anymore. I mean, you know, he's playing. I want to see, you got to see what you have in these younger players. You know these older players, what they're like. You know what a Sullinger is. Sullinger's not an intimidator defensively. He's a power forward. So you got to get, he's 6'7". So what good is he going to, maybe he's good on a team like San Antonio. You know, coming off the bench, banging down low a little. So you're not going to become better with him as one of your lead players. Bradley's not a lead player. So what do you have? You got to hope Smart gets better as the years go by. Well, and you got to see Evan Young run. You know what you have in the other guys.
Well, this is not a rhetorical question. Where do young players in the NBA come from? They come from elite college programs where they're there for a year, maybe 2. Where do they get, how do they get to the major college programs? AAU. What does AAU teach you? It teaches you it's all about you. So they don't learn to be the great, well-rounded players. I think maybe they need some European players.
I was just thinking, no, that was my next thing. You know what I was just going to say to you? If I was a general manager of that team, I'd pick all European players. I'd have 5 European players on my team because they play the game the right way. Most of them can shoot the ball, you know, and they understand the game. They'll play good defense. I mean, what else are you going to do? I mean, that'd be my strategy.
No, you see so many of these European players whose fundamentals are just outstanding. You know, Ginobili, Tony Parker's a foreign player. There's just a slew of these. Nowitzki, obviously. You can go on and on about how many great European players they are as far as their basketball IQ and their ability to move the ball. That's why San Antonio is so much fun to watch.
And in Atlanta now, the assistant coach from San Antonio coaches Atlanta. They're playing the same way. But you know, it's unreal the way it's going with them. But again, if I was the Celtics, I would lean that way too. I would pick. They got all these draft picks. Get some of these players from Europe.
One of the points I tried to make about Kevin Eastman, he said the composition of your roster is this: you have ideally 2 players who are leading your team. You then have the next 3 players who are kind of starters but followers, and somewhere among those 3 is your team jerk. He's a guy who's not a good guy, but he can really play, but he's kind of a pain in the neck. Then you have 6 through 8, and those are guys who are useful players, bench players. They can give you something, but they're not good enough to start. And he says the last 4 guys on your team are just there, and they have to be great guys because if they complain, they're gone. You're never going to have the guy who's the team jerk be the 12th player. He's out of here. So he said the problem is integrating the jerk on the team into the starting lineup, and I'm starting to wonder if the jerk on the Celtics is Sullinger.
Oh yeah, I mean, I told you, I would have got rid of the guys we talked about. I said Rondo should go, Green should go, Sullinger should go, and Bradley should go. I mean, Bradley is just, they're winning games. I know you don't want to, you know, they don't want to get into that rut of losing, but I think the reason why I'm saying Bradley and Sullinger should go, so they could get someone pretty good for them.
Well, yeah.
Get a top draft pick, or they can get a good.
The problem is if you have 10 number 10 picks, you're never going to get there. You need to.
But you can get something for Bradley and Sullinger if a team that's in the playoff hunt, you know, they want to pull up jump shooter and Bradley who can pressure defense, but you're not going to improve your team with Bradley's just going to be a waste on the Celtics now. He's just a waste. You're going to win a couple more games with Bradley and Sullinger, but they're not going to get you anywhere. You know, where are you going to get the play to get you anywhere? You got to get rid of those players and get some, you know, hopefully get lucky.
Yeah, you know, it does take a lot of luck to win along with skill. Now, the team that's playing a lot better lately is Cleveland. They've been winning.
But they're not going to win the league.
No, because Atlanta's too good.
Atlanta's going to win it. I mean, they're playing like San Antonio used to play.
Yeah. No, they're really playing well right now. I think Atlanta has something like 8 losses.
All right, let's get to your team. I heard your team's playing good basketball.
Well,
you've had some great games lately.
We've played 3 overtime games in a row. Now, first of all, I talked about the Celtics' core values. My core values for our team are improvement, accountability, and teamwork. And when we pass the ball, we're half decent because, we have young players, we don't shoot the ball well. I don't expect us to shoot the ball well. But when we play unselfishly, we're pretty decent. And I did find that our team has an identity now, which is they are playing really hard. The 50-50 balls they're getting. If there's a ball on the floor, there's 2 girls on the floor going after it. And I'm not going to get individual players, but because it's silly at this age. But the kids are playing really hard, and I'm really proud of their work ethic. And what I was really happy, I heard that one of the games that was in double overtime that we did happen to win, the playing time was nowhere close to even or fair by my thinking. And I'm thinking, parents are going to crucify me. I'm making bad decisions because the playing time is too uneven in overtime and so forth. And then somebody said, well, one of the girls posted on her Instagram account or something, I love being on this team, the kids are so great. And she was not one of the kids who got to play a lot. So that's the kind of unselfishness that you like to see, and all the kids are working really hard. Now, if you never get to be an excellent basketball player, that's not a big deal. If you're an excellent student, if you're a productive citizen, if you're a nice kid, and you're respectful of your peers and your teachers, that's a win. That's a win. So I'm really pleased with the process. I'd like to have us experience a little more success, but they're young.
Well, you have a special situation here where you have a very good, I believe, starting lineup, and then you have players who haven't played travel basketball, and you haven't played basketball that are on your team, and this is a great experience for all of them. When those girls have never played, they're able to go to Andover, they're able to go here. You're going to all these nice schools and gyms.
One of these things that I did during one of the early practices, I took a timeout in the middle of practice, I gave everyone an index card and a pen, drew up a play, and said, okay, asked the kids to write it down. What did it mean? And basically they had no idea. So it wasn't because they're slow, they just haven't had that kind of experience. So in some of our other games, we've had a bunch of, I think we've had 4 overtime games. We ran one play where drew up the play on the whiteboard, and they ran it perfectly. It did happen, they scored off the play, but even if they hadn't scored, they've made so much progress in understanding the game, setting up the cuts, using screens. We're not a good team right now. I'm not, but I don't expect the sixth graders in a B league to be a good team. But the kids are really working hard, trying hard, and gradually they're getting there.
Yeah, and I look at your situation, and I look at my team where I put them in the 2A leagues.
Right.
And we're banging heads. I mean, we're playing this Metro West League.
Metro West League is really competitive.
We're playing in that A league against the top teams. But you know what I'm looking at? And I was thinking about every Middlesex League team we've played this year, we've beat, and some of the teams we beat by a large number. Like teams, we beat, Woburn, Stoneham, huge. We beat Wakefield. They're in the River Valley A League. We beat Wilmington, who's in the River Valley A League. We beat them pretty good for the first time. So we beat Belmont, who's in the Metro West A League. That's 6-1 in that league. We beat them in a tournament, the same team. So we've beaten every Middlesex League team. We're taking a hit in the Metro West. We had a huge game last night against Andover that would have put us 500 in the A League, and we lost. And we took the lead in the second half. We ended up losing. You know what I'm looking at now, Ron? You can put them through all the drills. I mean, the girls I have do tremendous in drills. You put them in a game, you got to be ultimate. You have to be the ultimate competitor. Like I told the girls after the game yesterday, I said, it's not good enough beating teams you're more talented than. Like Woburn, we're more talented, we killed them. Wilmington, we're more talented than them. Even though they're good, we beat them. Now you go up against Easton like we played the other day. They just outwilled us.
Well,
that's the key. Where do you get? I'm trying to build up their confidence.
On my blog, it's called melrosegirlsbasketball.com and blog, I have almost 2,000 posts. There are leadership posts, there are basketball videos, there's all kinds of stuff. The other day, there was adapted from the Patriots, and it was Brandon LaFell and Revis talking about, they said, if we didn't win the Super Bowl this year, we're going to the ownership and saying, they're working us so hard. They said, they're killing us in mini camps, and off-season workouts. And he said, we compete every day. And that's why they're the world champions, because they're bringing their competition to such a high level. And every team doesn't do that. You know, you might think, well, this is a National Football League, every team is the same. They're not. People recognize that the Patriots' experience, training, their process is superior. Plenty of other teams have good players and good facilities, but they don't win every year.
Yeah, what do you do when you have players that you know are talented that just aren't willing to compete at a high level? They're just, for whatever reason. What do you do then? I mean, this is the first team. I mean, we've had some powerhouse teams where we've won,
Right.
you know, 90% of our games. We're beating